Hey everybody, I'm Raul Gonzalez.
And I'm Oscar Ibieta.
And our show is called Medicare Agent IQ. The reason that we do this show, we say this every time, is just we want to help agents to be successful selling Medicare. And whether you're brand new in the business or you've been doing this for a while, we've got some content I think that's going to help you.
Absolutely. I'm excited about what we have to talk about today.
Yeah. So it's honestly probably my favorite topic. I am quite competitive in a lot of different things. And so the title of our show is Stoking the Competitive Fire, the Key to Success in Medicare Sales. And I believe that competition in that kind of internal competitiveness will drive you to success. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. I start to think about, you mentioned that you're super competitive. I think about the times that we've gone to play racquetball and and how competitive and how heated it can get. But it's a good thing, right? It's healthy. It's good for us.
Yeah. I think about kind of like the people that I look up to most in kind of like in sports or even in business, and they are typically going to be the most competitive people, right? You hear about, of course, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, and you kind of get a look into when they give their retirement speeches or Michael Jordan's Hall of Fame speech. You kind of get a chance to look inside, kind of look under the hood and see what is actually driven them to be great. And it's competition. It's being a competitive person, and so that's a big part of what drives me in my everyday to be more successful in our business and in Medicare. So that's the first kind of point that we have today is the role of competition in sales. That competition drives the sales industry. Would you agree with that?
100%. Yeah, I think it does. I mean, you have to have some kind of competitive spirit. And I know we're going to dive into that here today, but you've got to be competitive. And whether you're competing against yourself or you want to try and compete against others internally, externally, there's lots of different ways that you can define competition, in this industry.
Yeah, there's a carrier here in San Antonio, and it's United Healthcare. And so one thing that they have done since we've started is on a monthly basis. And I started our company 10 years ago, and Oscar was our first agent. Always
number one agent.
There you go. But when we first started, since day one, on a monthly basis, they send out a kind of a top 10 list of agents. And most recently they started doing agencies, which is really cool. And so if you live in this market, and I know they do them in others. So like I know they do it in Dallas because I see those also down in the Rio Grande Valley. I know they do it in other markets. It is something to me. When I look at why they are probably the most successful carrier in our city, I think that even if it plays a small role, it's definitely part of that because the other carriers hadn't been doing that. Yeah. And so people love the idea of being number one for United Healthcare. That's kind of the one. Some have started doing it lately, but that hasn't had the same impact quite yet because at time this is kind of like when I think like in boxing they talk about like the belts that mean the most. I think right now because UHC has been doing it the longest, theirs is probably the one that means the most in our market. But it comes down to when you see that and you look at it and you look at that top 10, and the question that you want to ask yourself is, why am I not on that list? Yeah. Why am I not on that list month in and month out? And that's what maybe will start helping you to ask some questions to yourself about what could I be doing different? So again, kind of starting with competition, and that's what would drive me as an insurance agent. What about yourself?
Absolutely. I mean, you mentioned the leaderboard with United Healthcare, and to be honest, we see some of our agents that make that leaderboard, and it feels good. We have that conversation individually and say, hey, do you think I'll be on the leaderboard this month? Because there's something about it, right? There's something about getting that recognition and being on that leaderboard with the top carrier. Now, mind you, we're brokers, right? So we write business with many different carriers, but like you said, United Healthcare does this and they post this leaderboard. And so I think it's really cool that personally, if I'm out there writing business, I want to try and be on that leaderboard.
Yeah. Use that to put yourself in a position to win. Get yourself excited. Use that competition. How do I get onto that board? And really what it does is it shows everybody else, hey, look, I'm working hard and I make it. So within our organization, we send out a leaderboard on a monthly basis also, because we know that gets people excited. There's an agent that I know, and he tends to be a top producer, and he has a lot of years. When we used to work at Humana together, he was in President's Club. Even now, he's always kind of consistently been a top producer for us. And anytime I tell him, hey, you're number one, he's like, well, I'm not in this for the competition. But I think he is. And I think that because anytime someone can stay consistently in that top position, there's definitely something internally going on with competition. So I want to kind of understand the competitive landscape. And, when we think about our competitors, there's two ways that I look at this. One competitor obviously is other agents, right? Mm-hmm. And so again, being top with them. But when I think about our industry, our main competition is the telesales, right? As independent insurance agents that are out in the field, we're up against that, and we're up against those Joe Namath TV commercials. And I know they're going away, so but we're up against those, and so we have to kind of figure out and look, okay, we've got that local competition, but we also want to figure out how do we compete kind of, in a broader way. How do we compete with those? And so the way that I do that and kind of thinking is like positioning ourselves to compete with them, and the way that we can outproduce them is kind of things that you say to do, right? Like, you coach your client anytime you enroll them, right? Don't change, don't do anything. What else can you?
First thing you're going to do is, or one of the first things you should do is store your phone number in their phone, because telesales, you've got either inbound, and let's be honest, right? There are a lot of outbound calls that are going to these people,
too many,
trying to market these Medicare Advantage plans. And so, how do we know, or how do we protect our clients from becoming a victim, potentially becoming a victim to that? And by victim, I mean, potentially losing them to another plan, somebody making a plan change to them. So storing your phone number in their phone. Say, hey, look, so this is my phone number. So whenever I call you, you know that it's me that's reaching out to you. But I will find a way to use that to my advantage. So let's not ignore the elephant in the room. There's commercials everywhere. They're getting bombarded with junk mail. We call it junk mail, right? I'll refer to it as junk mail, but advertisements. And so I tell them, look, you see these commercials that are promoting grocery cards and money back into your Social Security check and all this dental and all this vision. There are plans out there that offer these benefits, but not every plan offers that. And the great thing about me is that I'm right here, I'm local, and I'm going to be able to talk you through all of these options and help you understand whether or not you qualify. And if you do, we're going to help you get those benefits. But if you don't, I'm going to be able to explain why you don't. So that's a way to use it to my advantage.
Great way to be defensive against our competition, right? Yeah. So I'm going to talk about kind of harnessing the competitive spirit. And there's a couple of things that I think about would be to stay motivated. And one of the things, whenever I have a weekly meeting, or we're both on that weekly meeting with United Healthcare, and so we're having these conversations, and really the whole time we're talking, all I'm thinking is who was number one or who's number one. So I'll ask them for updates, and like during AEP, the question I'm texting them and I'm saying, hey, who's number one? Where are we at right now? How much of a lead do we have? Or is there any chance anyone catches us because that's kind of the first thing that's on my mind. Okay. Everything else will fall into place. And my number one focus is being number one. If we can do that, so that's how I'm staying motivated. And I use what I do is I use competition, and I use kind of like everyone else to stay motivated. But I will say this, super important. I feel like I have a pretty good relationship with all the other local agency owners here in town, and it's a very healthy competition to me, and to where, you know, there's months where maybe we don't win top producer. I'm celebrating. I'm like, man, good job. Right. My heart is, I'm gonna try to come back and win next time. I had lunch with one of our competitors here in San Antonio, and we were at lunch, and we were saying, hey, this isn't about business. We were just kind of just breaking bread together, having a good lunch. And at the end of it, they said, hey, you've done such a great job this last AEP. You were number one with multiple carriers. Very, very happy for you. Congratulations. But I want you to know we're coming back for you. And that's what they said at the end of that. And to me, I'm like, all right, let's go. You know, because to be honest, like, I don't move as well without strong competition, right? Like, there's two things that I struggle to get motivated by. One is competition that is too tough, right? So it's hard for me to compete with, let's say, an agency that has 2,000 agents, right? It's hard for me to compare myself against them, sure, right? That's not what we have. So the way that I look at things is, man, I don't have a chance against them, right? And so that I struggle to compete against that. And then the other places I struggle to compete is when I don't have enough competition, when it's not even close. And I'm just like, all right, man, I'm just, everyone else is phoning in. So it's really cool when you have good competition, so other people, because it motivates you. So as an agent, you might have that same thing, right? You see that there's agents out there that you can catch. How do I do that? By doing things like this, right? Listening to podcasts to get new tips. I always think that when I'm talking to people, one of the big things is figuring out ways to say things in a new way. That's a great. Did that even make sense?
Yeah, I'm following.
Figuring out ways to say things maybe that you haven't tried before that result in a different outcome. And what I mean is, a lot of times we're talking to agents, and all it was is them listening to something like this where we explain, did you ask us a question in this way? And they're like, oh, I never thought of that. And then they go back, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, I turned those into sales now. So that's a big thing, but it comes from stuff like this, right? So stay motivated, use competition in order to do that. So
yeah, and I think of, you know, if you're on a basketball team and you're fighting for playing time, you're going to get better. If you're on a good team, it's only going to make you better than as opposed to being on a team that's not so good, right? A team that has a losing record. Do you want to be, you know, one of the better players and a starter on a team that's got a losing record, or do you think that you would develop and become better if you were playing on a team that had more talent and that had, you know, better basketball players? They're going to make you better in practice, and if you're not a starter, you're fighting for that playing time. So translate that to Medicare, right? If you're not on that leaderboard, what could I be doing? Let me get better. Can I learn from these guys? And so I think that's what, you know, when we talk about harnessing that healthy competitive spirit, I feel like we have a great atmosphere here, right? Yeah. And nobody dislikes somebody because they're constantly on that leaderboard. Really, we've got most of the agents that are on the leaderboard, they're happy to have a conversation with other agents and tell them what it is that they're doing to be successful. And it's just taking little nuggets of information from different individuals and learning, and then putting it together to create your own package, right? You always use this example of taking this information, but then putting your own DNA on it and making it yours. And I love that. And I tend to use that a lot when I'm coaching agents. I say, look, listen to these different things that are out there. Go to these trainings, have conversations with people, and find out what it is they're doing to be successful, because obviously it's working. Yeah. And so you don't need to recreate anything. It's just kind of figuring out what they're doing to be successful and get out there and taking action on it.
Yeah, the reason I always do that that bring up having your own DNA on it is because I feel like it can be inauthentic if you try to copy the other person. So you've got to kind of listen, how are they doing this, and then make it your own. That's a big part. And so sometimes I do see people really trying to just mimic the way the other person does, and it just doesn't come off right because it's a different personality. There's even a guy I know, he tells very like kind of dad jokes. And he's like, that's his thing. And then I saw someone else trying to tell his dad jokes, and it just doesn't come across as you know, because he's trying, and he's kind of copying those things. So definitely, I think about, we have this agent, and she has been kind of one of our top agents for years, and she was so competitive that even though she was number one, she would ask me at times like, "Hey, I need more competition." She's like, "I need," because that is, if you use it and you use it in the right way, it's a way to motivate yourself to do even more. And she would always tell me, "Hey, I'm listening I'm watching these training videos on YouTube. I'm listening to this podcast, trying to get better." And she would share the different podcasts with me, and I'm like, "Man, that's great. That's great." And that's kind of why we've decided to do this, is we know that there's a lot of agents out there, even, and it wouldn't surprise me if it's the very best agents, people who are most successful that are watching these, right? Because when you think about people like, let's say Kobe Bryant, bring it back to him again. I'm a big Spurs fan, so Kobe Bryant was the enemy for all those years, but you got to respect the way that he worked, right? His work ethic was incredible. But he always talk about, having these 2 or 3 hour training sessions even before he was in the pros.
Practice.
He would, and then before practice that he would wake up at like 4 a.m. and he'd be at the gym by 5 and get his workout in. By the time other people are waking up, you already finished your first workout. So kind of in that same way with this, if you can figure out ways to do that, like when everybody else is resting, when everybody else is kind of got it in cruise control, that you're still moving forward, and then that's what's going to help you to be successful. But competition can drive that.
Yeah, 100%. One thing that I want to just kind of piggyback or add something to what you're saying. One easy example, simple example, especially if you're an independent agent, you might be taking Friday off, or you might be cutting out early on a Friday. If you're trying to get better than everyone, or you're trying to be on that leaderboard, don't take that Friday off. Show up to work, show up to the office, find something to do, force yourself into some sort of activity that's going to move you forward. And so we talk about motivation a lot, which is great. And I think it's important, right? It's important that we find something to be motivated about, but that's going to wear off, right? It's going to go, it can wear off. You can wake up and be super motivated to get after it and have a great week on Monday morning. But as the week progresses and goes on, you may be ready to get out, on Friday, or maybe just call it a day, or not even go in on Friday. Discipline. I think discipline is another important piece. So you want to be motivated, but you've got to remain disciplined on the days that you don't want to do it. Right. Find something to do. Force yourself into doing something that's gonna help you move your business forward. Whether it's training, whether it's tuning into a podcast, whether it's getting on YouTube and finding these different tutorials. Find a way to educate yourself. Make some phone calls if you have some old leads that you haven't touched in a while, or maybe you haven't been able to get a hold of people. Take the time to reach out to those people. Again, call your book of business. See if you can generate some referrals. Check in on your clients. There are so many different things that you can be doing to be active. That can lead to more sales.
Yeah, I always think about that quote. It went viral recently. It was a Mike Tyson quote. What was it? He said, discipline is doing the things that you hate and doing it as if you love it.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about, right? And it's about the big part for me is a lot of agents that I see, and one of the struggles that they have is they look at work as enrolling someone or working on a lead. And so they'll have a day where they talk to 2 people, and they maybe went and enrolled someone. Maybe they went and they worked on helping someone apply for Medicaid or whatever it is. And that was all they did for the day, but they felt accomplished because, hey, look, I've got these 2 cells I'm working on, or I got 1 cell and I'm working on another one. But what about the rest of that day? Man, you could have been doing a lot more, going out, creating relationships, get out there and do more. But if you're not competitive at all, like if you just like whatever, does it matter? Then how are you, like what's driving you? You got to have something that drives you.
I'm smiling, I'm laughing because I'm guilty of that. Like I remember when I first started doing insurance and I was a selling agent. I would do that. I'd go and sign up a T65 and then maybe also enroll their spouse who's already on Medicare, and I make a plan change for them. And so I got 2 sales and it's not even 10 o'clock. I'm going to get out of here early. I'm going to go call a buddy, see who's off and grab some lunch and then take the rest of the day off. And looking back, right, I shouldn't have done that. Knowing what I know now and being older and wiser and more disciplined when it comes to the business, I would have talked to that kid, right, and said, hey, like you're off to a great start, but the day's not even halfway done.
It could be a lot better.
Yeah, exactly.
I struggle with this one on the Friday afternoon thing. So full disclosure, usually I'm done at Friday about 12 or 1. And the reason that I struggle with that is because I want people to be able to enjoy being self-employed and be able to, there are some fruit that you get to enjoy of being self-employed. So let's, within that discipline, within that, so if Friday is your thing, if Friday afternoon is, being able to go home early and pick up your kids and enjoy that part of your life or whatever it is you want to do on a Friday, that's perfectly fine. The big part for me would be even the other times, or if you're, it can't be all of them, right? Yeah. It can't also be like, well, I'm going to start working at noon and finish at 3, Monday through Thursday, and then I'm going to take Friday off. That can't be, there's no way that works kind of to be successful. So I will say, of course, enjoy some of that, like enjoy some of the fact that you're self-employed. I see sometimes recently with this, we've started a TikTok, and so I've kind of come across some agents, and they're posting that they're working and they've got their feet up on a lounger on the beach somewhere, and they're like, I'm working, this is a great job, isn't it? And they're working from there. So there's ways to balance all of that, but I think the important part is balance, right? Yeah. So, hey, another thing that I was thinking about with regard to competition is collaboration, and there's got to be a way to balance that, right? To tell people, hey, look, it's okay to help somebody else. In that agent that I was telling you about earlier, the one that it was always number 1, and she was watching people. With her, I found it very refreshing. It's kind of the heart of what we're doing here, is that she would, if any agent would pick up the phone and say, hey, could you give me some advice? Can you tell me what you're doing? She'd give them the blueprint. It wasn't like, okay, I'll tell you a couple things, but I'm gonna hold back just a little bit. Yeah. She would give you the blueprint, and she's not holding anything back. And the reason is just like me, like she welcomes good competition. I'll show you what I'm doing. I think I can do it better. And this is, this is the way that she was wired. And I think that there's something really special about that to say, hey, look, if you pick up the phone, and this is true for any agency owner or agent that would pick up the phone and reach out to me, I'd answer questions. That's why we're doing this. And this used to be a podcast that we only did for our agents, and it was a little bit different. We called it the Medicare Hour, and it was exclusive for TMS agents. And we would say, well, we keep it behind a firewall. We don't want to share all of our secrets. But we've kind of looked at it. We believe that we do things in a great way. There's also 11,000 people turning 65 every day. There's plenty of room for competition. We welcome that, and we want to help others to be successful. And kind of just with that, makes us better. Iron sharpens iron. We get stronger, we get better, and it's better competition for us in the long run. So I even tell any agency, any agents in San Antonio that are listening to this, man, we welcome that. We want you to learn more, and it's going to make us all better. And honestly, the big thing for me, kind of going back to our competition is these call centers. I want independent agents out on the field. I want our field agents, regardless of the agency or where they're at, I want them to be number one. I want them to dominate the telesales. So
yeah, there's healthy collaboration. To give another example, we've got some agents who are actually planning on going out into the field next week, and they've got a little field trip plan to go out, and they're going to try and create some relationships with dentists, right? And so there's something about walking into a place by yourself, and it feels a lot different when you walk in with some support, right? So if these two agents are getting together, they're collaborating, they're independent agents. So at the end of the day, they're competing against each other in a sense for that leaderboard or for whatever it may be. But they also understand, hey, let's link up. Let's bring our forces together. Let's go and visit these dentists. I'll come in with you, and we'll visit the dentist that you want to visit with, and introduce yourself. Let's see if we can create a relationship, and then we'll go and visit any dentist that you want to go and visit.
Yeah.
And so there's something good to that. Is because have you ever had to walk in somewhere by yourself?
Yeah, it's not as fun. Yeah, you got like there's strength. I've got a cliche acronym for you. Team, right? Yeah. Together, everyone achieves more, and really, there's a lot of truth to that. There's strength in numbers when you go in with somebody else. So, don't be ugly competitive. Right. Like just like I can compete with people and not have to be a jerk. I think, and I pride myself on like the kind of the largest agency owners in San Antonio. I have a great relationship with all of them, and I love that, and I want to continue that. And so there'll be competition. I want to be number one. They want to be number one. We all realistically do. I think that to kind of be in leadership, a lot of us are competitive. So I want us all to do that, but let's do it in a healthy way that we can all just kind of, at the end of it, we celebrate each other when they do well and kind of go through.
Hey, let me ask you a question.
Yep.
So for some advice here, all right? So what advice would you give to someone who struggles with competitiveness, or they're trying to foster more of a competitive spirit? So we've been talking this whole time. We're competitive. You're competitive. I'm competitive. We've talked about Kobe Bryant. We've talked about our top producers who are very competitive, and they have that big competitive spirit. But maybe somebody who's struggling with that, and they're like, well, you know what? I'm not very competitive. Well,
yeah.
What kind of advice would you have for that individual?
Yeah, though there are people out there that just don't have it, and I think it's maybe because they haven't set goals or visualized where they want to be. And what I mean is if you set a goal where you tell people, I want to get this house in such and such neighborhood, then you figure out, okay, well, how do I get there? And you would have to come to a realization that you're going to need to have something to motivate you to do that. And so I think that a big part is just needing direction and just saying, hey, look, I would like to move here. I would like to be able to provide my family with this. I would like to be able to only work 2 days a week, whatever it is. And you have to kind of visualize where you want to be and then use a competition to motivate you to get there. But not everybody, the reality is not everybody is. We're hoping that maybe we could stoke some competitive fire within people. But if you're not a competitive person by nature, we understand that. We understand that everybody is wired a little bit differently. But I do want to tell you, it's okay. I know that there was a time with kind of where people were giving kind of trophies to everyone and saying, you're all winners. And it's true in life, we're all winners, but maybe not in everything, right? Like there's you can win without being number one. That's very true. And we've kind of done that because we didn't want people to get their feelings hurt. But the reality is that some people are going to be up at the top, and why not it be you? Like, why can't you be number one? Why can't you be in the top 10? And kind of maybe start looking at it that way. The only thing that's holding you back from being up at the top is maybe decisions that you're making. So if you can do that, there's, everybody's wired a little different. And so I don't understand fully the psychology of people who aren't, but I know that, but it's really cool when I think about my son. He is the second most competitive person I know, in second to myself. Like the kid and I, we compete on everything, but and I guess obviously I started it, but like at this point, like even like kind of when I get home, he's like, Dad, let's do a Smash Bros championship and see who's number one for the night. And so we do this on a nightly basis. So trust me, allow yourself to be competitive. Allow yourself to feel the feelings of defeat, and allow yourself to feel the feelings of trying to win, and then that overwhelming sensation that you feel when you do accomplish number one. It's worth it. It's okay to be competitive. So really, we're out of time, and this is probably my favorite subject. Probably go on for hours talking about just competition and how it drives us all. But I will tell you, if you kind of think about the most successful people that you know, they are probably very competitive people. So it's okay to turn it on. It's okay. You don't have to hold it down, as long as you do it in a way that is healthy and healthy to yourself, right? Don't get some sleep still. Take your Friday afternoon. No, I'm just kidding. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for listening. We are excited. Do us a favor, make sure that you're subscribing and liking and hopefully keeping up with our content so we can continue to do it.